Styles are important with AI, really important and not discussed enough. When you're trying to generate an image or video, you probably have a style in mind from something that you've seen elsewhere in the past, obviously. And trying to communicate the style that you want for your image or videos with AI can be really frustrating if you don't have the knowledge and the terminology for certain kind of styles. So the objective for this lecture is to go through some key styles that you might be wanting to use for AI, although these are endless, of course. So the outcome, you'll have this terminology for certain styles to be able to use it in your prompting with AI to get the styles that you want. Now, you don't need to know all of these styles. Obviously, I could just generate an image, and if I know I wanted something kind of dark and moody, I could say, and we'll do some prompting in a moment and I'll show you, I want a kind of gritty nighttime feel with some neon signs, and I could say that into, say, Midjourney to generate an image to turn to video. But if I know that that style is called cyberpunk, I could instantly say, I want a cyberpunk image of, and then describe my scene and quickly, more quickly and accurately get the kind of image that I want. Not to get too scientific about it all, but AI has been trained and learned on models, videos, imagery, etc. out there that knows what cyberpunk is based on what it's learned before. So if you know what these styles are, then it's going to be far quicker for you to get the results that you want. So let's learn some. Some of the most common ones that people want, I'll put on the slide right here. Film noir. You can say I want it black and white, gritty, old 1930s style, or a bit like Blade Runner, which is a mix of film noir, cyberpunk really. You could say that, but the term is film noir. To get shots like this, those black and white, really eccentric lighting, backlit, silhouette, these kind of images, that's called film noir. Or you could have seen some other films online. I want something very colorful and symmetrical, kind of eerie, strange looking. Well, there's a director called Wes Anderson, and Wes Anderson often has shots like this, symmetrical. People are put dead in the center of shot with bright, colorful backgrounds, wide angle shots. If I tell the AI model I want a shot in the style of Wes Anderson, I can be getting shots like that far faster and more accurately for the image you have in your mind. Or perhaps I want, a lot of people call this cinematic because on an iPhone that's what they've labeled it, but I want that blurry background. That's called a shallow depth of field, meaning what's in focus. For example, if I hold my hand up right here, you can see that my hand is in focus and the background is blurry, and then it will come back onto me right here. It's a shallow depth of field. Those are just some key examples. Let's jump into screen and I'm going to show you some more styles and things you could be using, and then let's generate some prompts to see how these work. So whether you want the moody, symmetrical compositions of Stanley Kubrick or the vibrant, whimsical aesthetics of Wes Anderson, like I mentioned before, you can elevate it by creating the atmosphere based on these styles. This is what you need to give AI. So let's talk about some styles right here. Here you can see this image created from Midjourney as a cowboy and sci-fi. We've got Western and sci-fi meeting in one image. Quite a cool image. So let's go over some of these and then let's start to generate them. Here, once again in Midjourney, let's look at some of these film styles. So here on this page, you can see I've added probably all the main ones you're going to want, but the kind of styles that you could be using and people that you are inspired by. This list is endless and personal to you, but let's start with some of these. Film noir, 1940s, 50s, characterized by that dark, moody kind of visuals. You'll see these in movies like one of my favorites, The Maltese Falcon or Double Indemnity. Those kind of films really use this style, often gangster type movies. Or the Western, we all know the Western frontier, often this more sepia kind of tone here, beige tone against blue skies, often very wide angled shots using a wide lens to connote the vastness of the expanse of the West. And some good examples, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, or Unforgiven. Moving on to science fiction. Obviously, you could look at Blade Runner, which uses a few different styles in it, or Space Odyssey, Star Wars, etc. for this kind of sci-fi feel, which isn't just going to be in the style that we're looking for here, maybe in color and things, but in the mise-en-scène, what's included in the shot and the feel that you have. Now, some other ones that aren't used as much that I'm a big fan of, melodrama. Now, melodrama was popular in the 1950s. It's this kind of bright color. You see we've got this turquoise punch here, yellow here, and in movies, Douglas Sirk was a big director for this. Some of his movies really utilize that. You'll have one wall in one color and another in another color. Kind of in the birth of this, not long after color movies obviously became apparent and huge in Hollywood, really playing with the color and what this means with regards to connotations on shot and the way he's lighting characters and scenes. Really, really nice style, and it really sets the tone for maybe 1950s that you want. Now, these two are linked. It's this 1980s aesthetic, which you may see again in films like Blade Runner, but in lots of movies where we got these neon colors, 1980s feel. And then over here we got retro, which is also 1980s, but could be anywhere from the 50s to 80s. This is kind of a Goonies style shot, and it just has that tone on screen, doesn't it? You'll know from movies like The Goonies, or perhaps Gremlins, or any of these kind of movies that have this kind of tone with this Technicolor that was used. There's some other things here. Golden hour, which is obviously what it says right here. We're getting that golden hue come across. Blue hue, which sometimes has more of a Terminator, a shot with a blue hue, for example, quite a lot, which has a science fiction kind of feel to it, or fantasy quite often. Cyberpunk, that's that Blade Runner style. It says here, Ghost in a Shell. And even The Matrix used this in more modern times. And then there's things like steampunk, which is that mix, that fusion between futuristic and Victorian era. You've probably seen, I'll put some examples on there. Sherlock Holmes used this, and Steamboy. Documentary style is realism, that kind of observational feel. If you were to ask this to be generated, you might get a lower image quality intentionally with some bright punchy colors, an expressionist surrealist cinema. And then I'll finish up with some director styles here. Tarantino, big fan of these low angled shots, and he used some inspiration from Western as well as Asian cinema. Wes Anderson, that symmetrical, bright, punchy color, real Wes Anderson feel, which is also very similar to Stanley Kubrick, slightly different, but those psychological movies that he made. Deep focus and shallow depth of field. Shallow depth of field we spoke about in the intro for this, where everything in the background is blurred. You might call it cinematic with your iPhone that you film with. Deep focus is the complete opposite, where everything is almost in focus. This is in focus back here. It's not all the way here, but here and here. Everything is in focus. Films like Citizen Kane, one of the first films to be trying to do this, keeping that really deep depth of field, that everything's in shot. It almost feels theatrical, where a viewer would have to be looking around the shot themselves. It's not dictated. Right here, you are dictated, look at this flower. You can't see anything else. Here, it's up to you what it is that you look at. Really cool cinematic styles. And of course, fisheye is that wide angle, which you could have done. Tarantino could have been using this if he wanted to, but that kind of eerie visual that I really like to use here. So why don't we play with some of these, okay? Let's run a few examples. So for steampunk, let's actually copy this right here, and let's put this into Midjourney. Let's paste that. I'm going to go along and do some of these. So this is for documentary. Let's use that one here. Expressionist, let's play with that. I want to see what Midjourney comes up with for this. I really like the cyberpunk stuff, so let's generate that with cyberpunk. Let's put that in, paste those, and let me try a few more things. So I want to have this retro 1950s feel. Let's just put in here 1980s, so it's retro 1980s cinema style. A young boy is shocked looking at camera, eating a candy bar in the style of the movie The Goonies. Okay, let's just correct some of these typos. Not that it matters too much, as if AI, they know your spelling mistakes. Let's put that in, and then let's look back on some of these. Oh, I want to actually do some melodrama style. So in the style of Douglas Sirk in 1950s melodrama, generate a cinematic scene inside a house of a woman drinking wine. Haven't given any direction about the woman and what she is wearing. Generate. Okay, let's put that in. Let's see some of these results right here and what we have. So this is the steampunk style imagery. Yeah, really nice. Look, we have that Victorian, kind of modern, a flying boat kind of, yeah, flying boat we have here that looks a bit like one of those inflatables you had during the wars too. Okay, yeah, really, really nice. So you can see that just by putting in that it's steampunk, it knows instantly the style that I have to have for here. Let's look at this documentary style, market. So we've got these punchy colors, especially this one right here. This looks like it could have been filmed on camera that you would use out in documentary making, maybe the Sony F16 or something, but it's picking up real color and real vibrance, kind of that real feel for documentary. So this is the surrealism that I was speaking about. A surreal scene, dark, twisted cityscape, distorted, angular buildings, long, looming shadows. Lighting should be stark, high contrast, and that is exactly what we've got. Look at that. That looks really nice. Okay, exactly what I would want from the prompt. Now we've got a cyberpunk. Generate a bustling, rain-soaked city at night. Towering skyscrapers adorned with holographic advertisements. The streets are illuminated by neon signs. Busy. Okay, let's have a look at this. Yeah, exactly. We've got that Tokyo kind of downtown New York feel. Perfect. That's exactly what I want from that cyberpunk feel. So this was 1980s cinema style. This one is less so, I think. This looks more modern, 90s, early 2000s. This one also, I think, maybe not. But this one, best late 80s, early 90s, cinema style, young boy, shocked, eating a candy bar. What I might want to do is rerun this again, generate it. I might just remix it strong. Let's just see. I want to see another version of this image. So that was the 1980s retro feel. Nice. Now let's continue to search on here. Here we have the Douglas Sirk style melodrama. You see, you got this light coming in here, this punchy bit of like turquoise coming in here, a woman drinking wine in a house. Yeah, lit. This is just like Douglas Sirk on the examples that we've shown. Really nice. Exactly 1950s melodrama, and it understood what I meant because I gave it the examples of Douglas Sirk, who is a director, and the word melodrama. Let's continue to look at some of these shots. This is me just regenerating that shot here. I still think these are a bit modern. I think this one is probably best. And you can keep regenerating. For example, this chart here has too many fingers. So I would be playing with this and I would tell it to fix the hand and make it only have 5 fingers. If you are wanting something different that you've seen online, people like Stranger Things. That's a real mix of this 1980s aesthetic, retro, and some modern day sci-fi also. Start watching things and generating kind of a list for yourself for the different styles that you want and how you could be generating the perfect images that you need to understand the styles to get the best from your AI prompts.